In today's episode, we find out if I can build a tote rack or a bin rack better than the plans I found online. Spoiler alert, I did and I can. Look, we can roll it around. Look how cool that is. Yes. It's awesome. But I have a question though, and is if you could leave a comment everywhere where I screwed up on this build, that'd be great. Also, what would be better than that is if you can go ahead and build your version of your better idea for this, and then post me a link in the YouTube description, and I will happily watch it. And then maybe the second one I build will be as good as yours. This is the version that I built. So I decided to get a tote rack, build a tote rack for my garage. Looked at plans online. If you want a very straightforward, fully thought out plan, there's one from, I think it's the Shelf Dude, I think is what it is. He's got very good plans. Go check him out. The only thing is he's from Utah, I think, or something like that, so a little cooler climate. The way you've seen these designed before is they have these rails that run across, and these totes slide on the rails. They're supported by the lips. That's probably fine in a cooler climate. I have concerns here in Texas or Florida or Arizona or somewhere where we get super hot in the garage. And then also I plan on putting some very heavy things inside of my totes. So I didn't love the idea of what these are gonna look like after a couple years when they really start bowing and sagging in the middle. So I decided to basically take the rough measurements of what his plans were, and instead of putting the rails along the sides, I decided to just take that same lumber and then build supports along the bottom. The other change is instead of having the boards go tall with bracers in between, I decided to use the full length boards going across and then have little posts going in between. Right quick, let's go over some of the parts and stuff that I used on this particular project. And by the way, I am curious, like if you had better ideas, feel free to put them in the comments. I was kind of joking earlier. I'm fine with people coming in and saying they designed it better because they probably did. I did not spend a tremendous amount of time designing it, but I did build a very sturdy one that I'm very happy with. So overall, this project was $465-ish. I'm sure there's some tax or something I missed in there. We used 14 2-inch by 4-inch by 8-foot boards, so 2x4 by 8s. We used 14 of those. I used 12 2x4 by 10s, 10-foot long, so 12 of those. And then totes, used the one I particular built here, which is 5 wide and 4 high, that would fit in my space in my garage well. This one holds 20 of these green-made storage totes, 27 gallons. I used roughly 28 of these L brackets just to help support in some of the corners that I felt could use a little bit of support. You could do them in every corner if you wanted to, but I feel pretty sturdy with what I built, and I used about 28 of these just because I'm an overbuilder. I probably didn't have to really use any of these, but oh God. Then we have one 5-pound box of screws. So I got these on Amazon, and they were 25 bucks for 5 pounds. And they actually worked really good. I didn't break any, they were pretty good. And so this is wood and fence decking screws, number 10 by 2.5 inches, and 5 pounds of those. And then some shorter screws. I probably could have found some cheaper ones. These were, I think, I don't know, was it 10, 12 bucks a box? It might have been cheaper than that. I can't remember. So these are number 10 by 1.5 inch screws. And so I did 2 1-pound boxes, but I have some left over. So if you're price conscious, maybe just get 1 box and see how far you can stretch them. But I'm okay with having a few extra, so I got two boxes of those. And then the casters, we got 5-inch casters off of Amazon. I ordered 2 boxes. They were 25 bucks each for 4, and that is the parts list that we used. So the measurements of the boards. Let's start with the horizontal boards first. We have the long boards. So these are the 10-foot boards that I cut down to 116.5 inches long. 116.5, and there's 10 of those. All right, so the other horizontal boards are the 18-inch. These are what supports the tote and goes in between these other 2 longer boards. I used 27 of these 18-inch boards. I could have gotten away with probably 25, but I put a couple extra, 1 on each side to help support it, and I cut a couple extra, so I have like 8 more over here. I thought about putting a few more up top, so I have more of a shelf up top, or maybe food down on the bottom so I can really handle heavy totes. But those aren't necessary. 27 is what I used. I used 4 25-inch boards. Those are what support the weight on the casters. So I put those going across, and those what I screwed the casters into to give it a little bit extra rigidity and support on the bottom layer. Then we have the vertical boards, which is basically 2 boards. So we have the 15.5 inch. So I did 48 of these 15.5 inch boards, cut 48 of these 15.5, and this is what goes in between the layers to hold them up. And then the other 2 boards that are semi-vertical are these cross supports. These probably aren't necessary, but with all this weight that I'm going to be putting on this thing, I kind of wanted some cross supports. So, and I had an extra couple boards. I bought a couple extra anyways. So I just took and split one of the 10-foot boards. So this is now a 60-inch board. I just cut it in half and put one on either side. The last thing is, which I haven't put on yet, I'm going to look around for some handles to see if I can just get like a metal handle to put on here to make it a little bit easier to grab and move this thing around. If I don't have any, I'm going to go buy some for probably a couple bucks. So there is the current build. Now I guess we should show you actually how I put it together. Why should you build a tote rack? I don't know. Why am I building a tote rack? The short answer is I don't have a huge garage and we've got lots of totes. And so I decided I should build a tote rack. In short, what I'm kind of thinking about is a tote rack that is 5 across and 4 high, because I need to keep it underneath some of the shelves you see up there in that corner, so it needs to be below that. I'm going to put it on casters, and so that'll raise it up. So it should be just under that height in there with 4 high. We're going to be using I think it's the green something totes. But they're the ones, the black with the yellow lids. And so those are somewhat stackable. And so I see people online saying, oh, these are so dumb. Why don't you just stack them? They're meant to stack. And true, but then you have to, if you want something in the bottom tote, you have to totally unstack everything. And so I'm trying to make this easier for my family to be able to come out and get the Easter decorations or the Christmas decorations without having to get me or get a ladder or unassemble a full wall of totes. And so this is more of a convenience thing. But looking at the designs, a lot of them hang from the lip. Green Made actually is the brand. So a lot of them will hold up the totes, the rackings, from these edges right here. And that's probably okay if you're doing really light stuff and if you don't live in a super warm environment. But I live in Texas and it gets very warm, and even in my garage it gets very hot. So I'm afraid that with the heavy tools and stuff I have in them, that those will start to bow and crack over time. I've definitely seen that online. So what I'm going to do is attempt to change the design. Instead of hanging it off the rails, I want it to actually sit on 2x4s. Looking at the math of the method where you hang them from the rails, it looks like I will use, with my method, probably 2 more boards, maybe 3 or something like that. So it's not a whole lot more wood to get much more stability and security. And I'm not sure if it's even that many more boards, but it's not much. If anything, it's just 1 or 2 more boards. I'm just building it how I want, everybody. So if you like a different design, please build yours like that. I kind of enjoy just making it my own and then just seeing. Typically, I will overbuild things, so I'm not too concerned about it being lacking in structural strength. So mine will be about 116.5 inches long total, and it'll have 5 totes in the bottom. It'll be, each section of the totes, in my case, will be about 15.5 inches tall. That's about how tall the totes are, with a little bit of extra room on top. Overall, I think my height is going to be 74.5 inches after the casters are on. So I believe the next step I'm going to do is actually start cutting the ends off of the long boards. So I'll have 10 116.5 inch boards. That will be the, you'll see, it's the boards going this way. And I'll need 10 of those. So let's get cutting. All right, first cut. If I want my long boards to be 116.5 inches, I need to cut off roughly 3 inches and 7/8. So 3 and 7/8 inches. So put a mark there at 3 and 7/8 inches. And then put my triangle on the board so I get a roughly straight cut. Know where I'm cutting. There we go. Luckily, these don't have to be super precise cuts. So put your earplugs in, your safety glasses on, all that stuff, and get to cutting. There we go. Now we just need 9 more of those. All right, I ran across a board that is kind of split at the end, but I still want to use it because this is not a high priority build. And so, I don't know if you can see that, it's a little split right there on the end. Let's see if it'll focus. So what I'm gonna do is pour some glue down there and then clamp it. And it'll be fine for this type of build. So I'm just gonna take and open it up a little bit. Not so much that I break it. And then just squeeze some glue down in there. Come to the other side and do the same thing. Wipe up some of the excess. And then let's clamp it. We're gonna put an extra board in here so I don't glue my clamp to the board. Yep, squeezing all the glue out. Well, there we go, just let it dry. Okay, so that's all the long horizontal boards. We're gonna call that board number 1, that style of board, the 116.5 inches long boards. So we have 10 of those. And then now let's keep cutting horizontal boards. And so I want a board basically that's gonna go in between those long ones we were looking at, but going perpendicular to them. And so it'll be like each tote will sit on its own 2x4 as well to help hold it up, support the bottom. And so for those, we're gonna need 25 boards that are 18 inches long. So my totes are, the base of them are about 25 inches long on the bottom. So that's how far or how deep I want this contraption to be. And so 25 inches, but I'm gonna have a 2x4 on either side. So that's 3.5 inches. 2x4s are not 4 inches, they're 3.5 inches wide. So 2 of those, so that's 7 inches. So 7 minus 25 inches is 18 inches. So that's the length of board I need to go in between those long runners. If I'm gonna have all 20 totes, and then of course the top bar as well to help support it together, I'll need 25 basically, plus I think 2 more for the ends at the top. We'll see when we get it built. I'm gonna start cutting 25, but I think I'm gonna need 27 to finish off the top like I want it to be finished off. And I'm cutting those out of 2x4x8s, and each 2x4 by 8 should give me 5 of the 18 inchers. All right, so now we need to start marking these boards at 18 inches all the way down. So 18, 36, whatever is past 36 plus 18. All right, so now that we have a board that is cut exactly 18 inches, just perfect, we can use this one as a template now. So we line it up, make sure we get it perfect to the end of the board. Give her a mark. There's our 18. So now we can just go down the line using these. Okay, so we got all of the 18 inchers cut, and I may end up cutting some more, like I said. We'll figure out at the end how many we're gonna cut with the 18 inchers. But now I want the very bottom plate where we're gonna mount the casters. I think I'm gonna use 8 casters, which is probably too many. I mean, there's never too many. I don't think there's too many. But I had basically 2 sets of 4 anyways. And so this way I'll have lots of support underneath it. It makes me happier, warm and fuzzies on the inside. You could probably save some money and only do 6 instead of 8 for this long of a build. I just didn't want it to sag and stuff. So I'm gonna cut 25 inches because that's how basically deep the boards are gonna be, or the tote rack is going to be as far as the wood structure goes. So I'm gonna cut 4 25 inches to go perpendicular on the bottom of it. That way we've got a good plate to screw the casters to. So now it's time to measure those out, 25 inches. I think I'm gonna use a 10-foot board. That way I get all of them, at least 4 of them, off of one board. So just gonna measure that out and do that right quick. All right, so we have the 4 25-inch boards cut. Now it's time to move on to the vertical boards. So the first board number 1, was the long 116.5-inch ones. Then we had the second board, which is the 18 inchers. The number 3 board is the 25-inch longs. So all 3 of those, the first 3 are all horizontal. Now we're gonna start the vertical with board number 4, which is the height of each layer. So I want there to be 15.5 inches of space for the totes from top to bottom in each layer. So the totes themselves are about 14.5 inches tall with the lid on. And so I wanted an extra inch of room to be able to slide them in. I didn't want much more than that because it makes it too tall. So we're gonna do 15.5 inches boards. I think we're gonna use 8 2x4x8s, if I remember correctly. And we need 48 of these 15.5 inch boards. So we're gonna be cutting here for a while. So basically we do the same thing. We come, we mark 15 and a half, and then I'm gonna cut a template, 15 board, 15.5. That way I can just set it on here and measure it out, get to cutting like we've been doing on all the rest of these. Now that we have the lumber cut, we need to continue processing the wood, like knocking off these little splinters and that kind of stuff here. We could probably sand these down. Maybe I should. I don't know if I actually will. That's a lot of work. The other thing we got to do is prep it for the screws. So as the boards stack, we won't have access to where we can screw in easily. So some of them we will. Some of them we'll be able to screw in from the side of the 2x4. Others we won't, because there'll be another board blocking it. So what we need to do is use a pocket hole jig. So there's other ways you could do it. We could use little metal bracers, stuff like this. We may use some of these in some of the locations, but a pocket hole jig will make it pretty easy, which I will show you what it looks like. But basically we slap it on the board, it drills in a hole from an angle, and it allows us to put the screw in there and hold all of it together. So what I start doing now is start prepping these boards for the little pocket hole jig and start drilling out the holes. So we have like 48 of these boards that I'm going to need to drill holes in on one side. So you'll see as we start to put together, one side we'll be able to screw in directly to the end plate. The other side we will not. So I'm just going to go ahead and pre-drill all of the holes in these boards to get them ready to put together. These are not too complicated, but definitely if you pick one of these pocket hole jigs up, watch some videos online how to do it. Not this one. There's probably a more right way to do it than what I'm going to do. Get it lined up. You could put a clamp on it. I don't have time for that. And now we have holes pre-drilled, ready to go. So when we put the next board on top, we can just run the screws up inside of there and it'll hold it just magically. Very exciting, I know. Now we need to do this for 47 more boards. Wait, this is Cory from the future. Drill it on both sides, not just one side, but drill it on the top and the bottom. So drill 4 holes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Both sides do it. I'll explain more in the future. This is the future, later in this video. Well, that was exciting. Now we have to do it to all of the 18-inch boards, except on these, we have to do it to both sides. So we got to do it that direction and also that direction, because these are going to be sandwiched between 2 other boards. So we got to do it to both sides, all of the 18-inchers. Let's do it. The lumber is finally all cut and pre-drilled for the most part. So now it's time to start assembling it. So what I want to do now is put down one of the long boards, the 116.5 board number 1, if I remember correctly, down, and then set our 15.5-inch boards against it. 6, I think we'll have 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boards. And then each one of these boards will be spaced out by 21.5 inches. And so I've pre-cut a 21.5-inch board, so that way I could use as a template to go in between to make sure that we have the equal spacing. So this is as wide as the totes are. It's actually an extra inch and some odd wider than the totes. So this should give us enough space to be able to slide them in. So let's start screwing these on and get this thing together. Now that we have this one screwed together, we are going to need 7 more. So we want 8 of them that look just exactly like this one. So 116.5-inch boards with 6 of the 15.5-inch boards screwed through the bottom. And then we'll work on putting them all together in a little bit. All right, so we got all 8 of them assembled. And so now I'm going to lay them out flat on the ground and stack them together like this, so you can see I've got the 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I will be able to screw them all together. And then I'm also going to add my top board right now as well. So here's another 116.5-inch board for the top rail. So now let's screw all these together. And of course, the trick with this is attempt to keep it as square as possible. Good luck with that. I just got to do a lot more. All right, so I made a mistake. I realized I made a mistake, oh gosh, about, I don't know, a little way into the build, but I've already drilled all of the little holes in the 15-inch boards, the little pocket holes, and it's just not ideal to do it that way. I was hoping to kind of cheat and not have to use these. And so what's happening is when I go to screw in these pocket holes, they hit the screws right here randomly. And so also it helps to split out the wood. So it's just not a good design. So I initially bought these to manage that. And I was, like I said, I was hoping not to have to use them, but we are. So I'm probably gonna put this earlier in the video. So past me, don't do the pocket holes, just use the squares, okay? These little L brackets. So most of the weight will be down on this thing and not sideways. So this should be plenty strong. And just put a couple screws on either side to mount those. So that way we'll hold all those boards together. I think it'll actually be a little bit stronger too, a little bit more rigidity. So now it's time to put a bunch more screws and these in there. Pooptacular. All right, let's get to it. All right, this is Cory coming to you from the future with better ideas. Let me know if you have even a better idea on how to handle this part. So what we did was in the original video that you're watching right now, we screwed the screws into this board from underneath, right? So we put 2 screws in, basically going up through this part right here. but then that caused problems because our pocket hole screws would hit those screws, and it was kind of a problem. So I think what we should have actually done is on these 15.5-inch boards, we only drilled 2 pocket hole screws, these little guys right here. We only drilled 2 of them on one side of the board. I think what we actually should have done is drilled 2 on the top and then 2 on the bottom, and then not do the screw up through here. We should have just used just pocket hole screws to screw it from this board into this board and from this board into this board, just using the pocket hole screws. So that way the screws would pass each other so much easier and not hit the other screws nearly as much. And I think that would have been a much smarter and better build. But if you have even a better idea than that, then let me know in the comments. And of course, with these little L brackets, we got to use different size screws. So I got a box of basically 1 inch, 1 inch and a quarter, maybe up to 1.5 inches if you're bold, but it might start sticking through the other side of the 2x4. So somewhere around 1 inch, 1 and a quarter, or whatever that you see fit. Woo! All right, got all those screwed together. So now we've got a nice grid pattern here of 4 high, 5 long. And so now I want to put the supports that the totes will sit on and that will help hold things together some more. So I'll just set those loosely there. So we'll set those in, center them up nicely, and then run the screws in on this side. All right, now we got all these screwed in. Now it's time to set it aside and do the other side. Alrighty, now we have the other side built. So now we're ready to marry them, squish them together, make them kiss with some screws. All right, time to tip this one up and then squish it next to that one. And then we should be able to reach in and put some screws in to be able to hold it together. So now we both have them stood up. I can speak. So once we start putting these together, it'll straighten these both up. And then when we add our other boards, it'll also help straighten it up. So really, what we have to do now is there's these pocket screws right here that we drilled. So we want to make sure that these are nice and level, nice and even, straight, and then start screwing these pocket screws in to this side and hope it doesn't fall down on us. So there's several ways you can keep it level, straight, whatever you want to call it, equal on the sides. Set a board down in between. Make sure it's flat, straight, level. But then also, one of my cheat ways is to take and measure where this board meets this board and make sure it matches where this side of the board meets this board. It'll get us pretty close enough for government work. So 10.5 inches. I'm gonna make a mark on this board here, 10.5 in. If I can not knock it over. Now I know where this board, now I know where this board needs to meet here. Obviously you could probably do this laying on the ground. I'm not gonna do that, but I should. All right, so we have them all in except the last 2, and I did use a tie-down strap for my truck to help tie it together and hold it together and keep it falling down on me. I thought it was a good idea. So now we're putting the braces on the bottom. It's the top currently, but this will be the bottom, so it's upside down. So what I'm doing is making these little boards here. I think they're 25 inches long, and they go on top, and then this is where the casters will sit on top, right here and right here. But let's go ahead and screw this board down. So there's kind of a knot in this board right here, so I may actually run a screw through this side right here to kind of help hold it together, but I might do a little pilot hole in it just to make sure it doesn't split out on me. It's really not splitting that bad right now, but I just get nervous sometimes. I'll show you. So I don't know if you can see that splitting out right there. Yeah, right there. And on top it's starting to split out. So just want to run a screw in right here. There we go. Okay, so that one's on. Also, I cut a couple extra of these 18-inch boards, and they're the same ones that we put. Let me lower the camera. And so they're the same ones we ran in between. And so you can see there's a big open space all the way down. It would probably be fine, but you know me, I like to overbuild things in my dumb way. So I'm gonna put another one of these boards in between here and give it a little bit more structural support in between these posts. Cool. Holds that good. Now it's time for the casters. It's gonna go on top. For the casters, I have these 5-inch casters from Amazon, and if you hit the little button there, it releases it so they can spin any direction. And then you can also, when you lock them, it locks them in place and stops the wheel from spinning. So decent ones. I think they were 24 bucks for 4, something like that. You can find them cheaper, but this is going to hold a lot of weight, so I didn't want to mess around with the cheaper ones. Although I guess these are still pretty cheap. They also came with different nuts and bolts. But what I decided to not use is the screws that it came with. So these have a real big tendency to split the wood out if you don't pre-drill the holes, versus the screws that we bought, these right here, these don't. They have little stripping grooves in there that keep it from stripping out the wood so much. Splitting the wood, I should say. But the kit did come with these washers. I'm just going to take those washers from the kit that came with the casters and then put them on these screws. So that way they'll hold good with these little holes right here in the casters. So now we just set them up here and screw them on. Like I was talking about earlier, this board is just a little wafery on the end. So I'm gonna drill out the hole. Just to keep it from splitting out so much. All right, so I have some excess lumber, and I could do some cross bracing on it, something like kind of like you see on a gate, on a fence, something that goes from one angle down to the other to keep it from twisting. I have to shake it pretty hard. It feels really sturdy, more sturdy than it needs to be. But also just weight on it over time. I don't want it really twisting. So I'm contemplating doing just a cross brace from basically here down to there, just to kind of help hold it together. Something like this, just to keep it from twisting. So after thinking about it, I've got this extra lumber anyways, so might as well make it a little heavier, a little bit more overbuilt, and maybe a little sturdier. So it feels really good. Like it doesn't move this way any, right? Long ways. So I'm not too worried about cross bracing going this way. But this way, it feels like maybe it could, if with enough weight, that could kind of twist this way. So like I said, I think I'm gonna do a cross support right there. So I just cut one of my 10-foot boards, so 120 inches, in half. So I made 60-inch boards out of it. And so just gonna put these up right here and screw them in. I could do some fancy cuts, but like, why, man? This is a garage project, man. We don't need to do anything crazy. All right, need to put probably 3 screws on each top and bottom, and then got to do it to the other side. So we pretty much have everything done on it. I feel pretty good about it. Man, it is heavy. Man, it is secure. You will probably have better ideas than this. Congratulations, do them. But I think it's going to be very sturdy. So now time to tip it over, flip it up, so we can get it right side up. Definitely get somebody to help you with this part, probably. Don't let me tell you what to do. Get somebody to help you with that. Oh, oh, check that out. Wow, it rolls really good. Check that out. Oh my God. That is dope, is what that is. All right, let's do a test fit. Actually, let me get a tote. All right, let's see how we did. Oh, look at that. Look how cool that is. Isn't that awesome? That is amazing. So check this out. All right, so the whole reason I designed it this way was to have more support underneath. So you can see we've got a little bit of room up top, a little bit of room on the sides, right? So that way if the totes change size over time, like we have to get different ones, hopefully they should still fit in here. The other thing is so the front edge of the tote is supported by this board that goes all the way across. Same thing on the back, but then also the whole thing sits on another support in the middle. So that way it'll really divide that weight and make it hold a lot more weight inside of the tote. And also this could be multi-use in the future. So I could put a piece of plywood over the top of this or more boards in here, so that way this actually could turn into a shelving system and not just a tote rack in the future if I wanted. Some of my totes are super heavy, so I'm probably gonna put those down on the bottom rails, and that will be for like tools and stuff down there. But it looks super good. Now we just have to clear out all that space over there where those totes currently are. And I think I have to shift my toolboxes down. So if my measurements were correct, it's gonna go to like right here. So I need to shift this whole toolbox down another, I don't know how many ever inches, 3 inches, 4 inches. And so I think I've got a little room right there I can move. And I may have to take the handle off of that toolbox, maybe. It's getting pretty tight. Pretty tight, especially with this extra board here, because this adds, the other side I'm not worried about, but this side is going to add another 1.5 inches to how much further I have to move this stuff down. So check out this before video that I recorded before I created this tote rack wall, and you can kind of see a before and after of what what this poor garage looked like before, and then now of course what it looks like after we have this beautiful tote rack up. All right, I am cleaning out my garage. Don't judge me. You know yours is just as bad. Maybe not as bad. But it actually looks worse right now because I pulled out all of my totes. And so like all these are empty. And I will be creating a tote rack for all of these totes. And it's going to be awesome on that wall over there. So everything is in like ultra disaster mode right now. Full of stuff everywhere, like tater tot shotguns and random weird things around. So we'll try to take a snapshot of this after we're done. Hopefully it looks a little bit more organized than what it does now. Wish me luck. And like I promised at the start of the video, we did make a better version than what the plans we've seen online, or at least I think so. I think this is amazing. Check it out, man. It just moves around. It's freaking awesome. Super sturdy. It's holding all these totes. I think it looks pretty great. Thumbs up to me, I guess. Let me know if you have a better build. Hugs and kisses. Love y'all. Bye.